Christine Baselisco from BSed Social Studies 2. So in this video, we are going to tackle about the philosophical basis with its subtopic inclusivity and equality. But first, here are the objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to compare and contrast inclusivity from equality, explain the importance of inclusive education, and lastly is to perform the task that showcase the importance of inclusivity and equality. Now, we will tackle about the philosophical basis where it has two topics, the inclusivity and equality. But first, let us define inclusivity. So inclusivity is the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those having physical or intellectual disabilities or belonging to other minority groups. What are the key terms in inclusivity? So the key terms would be providing equal opportunities and resources. So inclusivity is where the idea that all types of people, for whatever differences, must be included as much as possible and work in other institutions and must be assimilated. It means that whatever benefits afforded to others must be afforded to everyone. Dili kay na ay pinalabi. Dapat all of everyone should be treated fairly. And everyone must feel belongingness in a certain group. Now, let's proceed to equality in education. So what is equality in education? It is the sameness in terms of education, uniform distribution of education opportunities, as well as freedom to develop personal abilities and make educational choices irrespective of differences of behavior, aspirations, and needs. So we may think that equality and inclusivity is somewhat, they are similar to each other, but they are different. So in equality, according to GON 2018, equality is the provision of equal treatment, access, and opportunity to resources and opportunities. So it is essentially that everyone gets the same thing, regardless of where they came from, to what needs they might have. So, since an equality in education, everyone should be provided high quality education. Dili kay ang usa mooy ra gi-focus, unya ang usa naulahira di ay. Dili ingon na dapat everyone should be kanang ma-providean siya og kanang quality education and everyone is maka-learn. Equality asserts that every student should have the same access to high quality education regardless of where they came from. So as what I have said earlier, that each of the students should be provided equal access of high quality education. And that, of course, we all know that every one of us come from diverse backgrounds. So we must respect and accept those differences that we have. And the importance of equality in education is that it is the best way to have educational access and academic achievement. Since we would need to have an inclusive classroom, let us define inclusion. So inclusion refers to standard that applies everyone in a certain education system. The same level of using language instruction, the same experience, the same learning resources, or the equal change of participation. So in inclusion, every child has the right to quality education and learning. So inclusive education is the most effective way to give all children a fair chance to go to school, learn and develop their skills that they need to thrive. As well as inclusion of education is all about reforming schools and ensuring that every child received quality and appropriate education within this school. So every child should the teacher ensures that every students received quality education. So the inclusion in education is based on many universal declaration which reflect the human rights and the rights of the children. So in the inclusive education, that all children in the same classrooms, schools has the same learning opportunities, as well as that inclusive systems values the unique contribution students of all backgrounds bring to the classroom site and allow diverse groups to grow side by side and to benefit of all. Since every students were learning, they should learn from their experiences, from their peers and their surroundings. And for them to grow. Yeah. The inclusion of education is based on the four 21st century pillar of education. So these are learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. So in the first pillar, or the learning to know, and it implies learning how to learn by developing one's concentration, memory skills, and ability to think, as well as it involves the development of knowledge and skills that are needed to function in the world. And the second pillar, or the learning to do, it is putting knowledge into practice, innovatively into skill, development, practical know-how, or the development of competence, life skills, personal qualities, and attitude. So the learning to do is anchored within lifelong learning and preparation for life and the world of work. Third pillar is learning to be, where it contributes to the integral formation of the individual in all sectors of knowledge, namely intelligence, thinking skills, and criteria of logical reasoning, as well as argumentation based on culture, diversities, and scientific knowledge. So, learning to be must be valued in today's world by preparing the individual throughout life to develop learning to know, learning to do, and learning to live together. So, learning to live together is very essential to learn with others with respect to dignity, diversity, skills of one and the other, to exclude bullying from social life. So this 21st century pillar of education is very important to each children in molding themselves in mind. It helps also individuals to develop their learning and practice with their skills. Now, since we are talking about inclusive classroom or inclusive education, so there are 5 strategies that we should be applied. The first strategy is to get to know your students and let them get to know you. So establishing a strong bond relationship with your student takes time. So by this, it creates an opportunities for students to share their interests, life experiences, and what they dream of, as well as you as the teacher could also share what are your experiences in life that can that the students learn from your experiences, and that it will build a connection that can continue to grow. So the second one is the create a safe space for students to share. So students need explicit time to establish connections with their peers or their classmates, everyone around them. And so by giving activities, especially those group activities, would help them build their self-confidence and meet new persons and learn from each other. So in this way, by grouping them would create and build different opinions in a respectful way. So reinforcing social emotional skills like empathy and compassion in your classroom fosters positive interactions between your students. The third one is deliver instruction in a variety of ways. And this strategy so that the students can would be interested in your discussion if you will be you as a teacher would use instructional materials that can get the attention or that the students will be interested in your discussion. So for just like for example as gamified lessons, the third one is deliver instruction in a variety of ways. So this is an increasing evidence that shows positive influence to the students to engage more in the discussion. So using some instructional materials that can catch up the attention of the students will be able them to cooperate and participate more. And by this, they can develop different learning styles. So varied learning content that appeals to different student interests is just so essential as an instruction style. So it provides students the chance to learn about the social justice to every medium that you used in your discussion. So the fourth one is to choose relevant literature. So choosing relevant literature provides students the highlight to the human experience. So by this, they can from the literature, from the literary works that you have provided them or you introduced to them, is that the students will be able to relate those what they have read to their to their life experiences. So they were able to like compare if what would be the best if they were on the same, like where they are on the same situation with what they have read. Last one is to invite guest speakers to share their stories. So according to an article published in the Economics of Education Review, the students can identify with a teacher or guest speaker's racial or ethnic background, that they are more likely to perform higher and be more engaged as they see a potential role model or mentor in the person. So by inviting a guest speaker as a part of an inclusive classroom activity, provides students to access an authentic learning experience they may never otherwise have. These inclusive classroom strategies incorporate to social emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching into practice. And by this 5 strategies is very significant in having an inclusive classroom. Do you know why? Because it allows every student to learn from variety of ways as well as from their classmates, and they are given equal opportunities despite of their differences. And lastly, the goals of inclusive education. So, why should inclusive education have goals? Inclusive education really have a goals that they are kanang kailangan i-aim. So, the goals in inclusive education is to provide an effective education to the majority of the children and overcome future learning deficiencies among youth and adults. And lastly, enables individuals to participate effectively on society and reaching his or her potential. So, ang goals sa inclusive education is it enables students to engage in the given activity despite of everyone's differences. So that's the end of my report. I hope that the lesson that we discuss will be instilled in your mind and heart, and all those strategies should be applied in your classroom as a future educator. Once again, I am Christine Fermentera Basilisco from BSED Sukstud 2. Thank you for listening.